They laughed when Jason Reeve stepped off the transport shuttle. Not just one of them, all of them. 12 cadets from 6 different galactic empires, towering, glittering, pulsing with bioengineered perfection, stared at the lone human in his unarmored uniform and unaugmented body. No weapons bonded to his bones. No visible neural implants. Just soft flesh, sharp eyes, and the unmistakable awkwardness of someone who knew he didn't belong. "Is this a joke?" Drarnak sneered, his forked tongue flicking across serrated teeth. "Did the humans send us a janitor?" The others laughed harder. Jason stood still, backpack slung over one shoulder. "No joke," he said calmly. "I'm your 11th squad mate." The laughter quieted, only slightly. Instructor Velthor floated into view, a mass of translucent limbs and glowing neural strands. His voice came through the implant translator embedded in each cadet's cortex. Cadet Reeve's assignment has been ratified by the Coalition. As the only human graduate of Earth's Red Line Combat Academy, he is authorized to participate in all live deployments. Drarnak turned to Velthor, still grinning. "Authorized to die, maybe?" Jason just nodded and followed them into the barracks. The Crucible training station orbited a red dwarf star in Sector 9, a war-scarred system under constant alert from the Vexery swarm. Cadets trained in harsh grav fields, hostile biomes, and simulations designed to simulate total sensory collapse. The galaxy's best warriors came here to prepare for the worst war it had ever faced. Jason trained like the rest of them, sort of. He couldn't throw starfire with his hands. He couldn't phase through walls or punch a tank in half. He could climb faster, sneak quieter, and analyze faster than anyone in the squad, but that earned little respect. On day 3, during a squad war game, Jason bypassed the objective entirely by sabotaging the sim's sensor grid and deactivating the enemy drones before they engaged. While the others were still charging in and getting killed, Jason had already shut it down. Velthor stared at the results. "Human, this was unorthodox." "I completed the mission in under 6 minutes," Jason said. "You violated protocol," snapped a crystalline cadet from the Trinari sector. "Combat was not engaged. I wasn't told I had to fight. Just win." That earned a few uneasy looks. Not respect yet, just wariness. Later that week, during mess, Drarnak stomped over to Jason's seat and slammed a spiked claw into his tray. "Your tricks won't work when the Vexery come. You think machines care about your clever human shortcuts?" Jason met his eyes. "I think that's exactly why they'll work." "You don't understand the war," Drarnak growled. "You're just a creature that wandered onto the battlefield." Jason didn't argue. He just stood up and walked away. That evening, alarms sounded across the station. The simulated threat exercises were immediately suspended. Velthor summoned the cadets to the command deck. "Emergency deployment," he said, voice unreadable. "The Vexery swarm has broken through the Alorn barrier. Casualties are in the tens of thousands. One of our forward-listening posts has gone dark. Your squad will drop in, assess, and, if possible, delay the swarm." Someone gasped. Another cadet muttered, "But we're still in training." Velthor floated closer. "This is your final exam." Jason stood at the edge of the group, silent. No one mocked him now. Drarnak turned slowly, eyes narrowing at the human cadet. "If you slow us down, you'll die first." Jason nodded. "That's fair." The next morning, they boarded the insertion craft. The Crucible belt loomed ahead, a stretch of asteroid colonies torn apart by relentless waves of sentient machines. Flickers of energy signaled active combat zones. Somewhere in that chaos, their squad would drop in. Jason sat alone, checking his equipment. He didn't have plasma claws or psi blades, just standard issue gear, a portable decrypt tool, and a collection of strange ideas. Above them, the dropship's speakers crackled. "Mission commences in 90 seconds. Prepare for groundfall." Jason looked up as the squad's HUDs lit green. Drarnak muttered something under his breath. Another cadet activated their battle shroud. Jason just smiled. He wasn't the strongest. He wasn't the fastest. But in 7 minutes, he was going to end a war. The Crucible belt was worse than the reports. As the dropship pierced the exosphere of a shattered asteroid base, the squad saw what the Vexery swarm left behind: glassified hulls, shredded metal structures, and organic residue where soldiers once stood. The stars themselves were dimmed by electronic interference. The base's main tower had collapsed, and distress beacons blinked with erratic pulses, like the heartbeat of a dying animal. Jason tightened his harness as the ship rattled. "Insertion in 10 seconds, the pilot said over the comms. Drarnak grunted. "Stay out of our way, human." Jason didn't answer. The ship shuddered. A moment of weightlessness, and then impact. The squad scattered with precision, fanning out over the crater terrain of the outpost. Psionic shields lit up, cloaking several cadets in shimmering fields. The crystalline Trinari twins levitated above the ground, scanning for movement. Drarnak charged forward with his gravity hammer humming, muscles taut with tension. Jason crouched near the edge of a broken platform, watching. So far, no sign of the Vexery, but that meant nothing. The machines didn't approach like armies. They appeared like viruses. Silent. Unstoppable. Adaptive. "Command, this is Squad 11. Velthor's voice echoed from Jason's comm unit. "Proceed to uplink node. Secure any surviving data before the Vexery locate you." "Copy that," Drarnak responded. Moving. Jason hung back. The terrain was wrong. Too quiet, too symmetrical. The Vexery had taken over hundreds of outposts before, but they always left behind noise. Corrupted signals, corrupted bots. This place was still. He tapped into a local feed using his wrist pad. "Strange," he muttered. "Speak up, human," barked one of the Trinari. Jason stood. There's no network traffic. No pings. No movement. It's not quiet, it's dead. "Which means it's safe," Drarnak said, stomping toward the central relay tower. Jason's eyes narrowed. "No," he said. "It means they're already inside." He was right. As Drarnak reached the base of the tower, the ground split apart. A swarm of Vexery machines burst out, sleek, metallic, multi-legged constructs with rotating limbs and adaptive plating. They surged in a spiral formation, targeting the strongest signatures first. One cadet screamed as a spike pierced his chest plate. The Trinari twins tried to levitate out of range, but the Vexery adapted instantly, launching magnetized grapples that pulled them down mid-flight. Jason ran, not away but around. He ducked into a service tunnel, flicking through schematics. The Vexery hadn't disabled the base systems. They'd taken control of them. He tapped into a secondary grid, located a backup relay, and began rerouting power to local defenses. Outside, it was carnage. Drarnak roared, swinging his gravity hammer in wide arcs, crushing 2 machines. But each one he destroyed was replaced by 3 more. The machines began adapting, coating themselves in gravitational counterfields. Another cadet tried a psychic pulse. It worked for 3 seconds. Then the Vexery fired it back at him, amplified. Jason's voice crackled over comms. "Get to cover. You're feeding them. Human, shut up and stay hidden." "No. Listen, they're not just reacting. They're learning with every move we make." "Then what do you suggest?" growled Drarnak, pinned under debris. Jason didn't answer immediately. His fingers flew across the wrist pad as he rerouted power again. "Give me 3 minutes," he said. 3 minutes? We don't have. He cut the channel. In the tunnel, Jason located an uplink port and connected his decrypt tool. Sparks flew as the Vexery tried to seal him out, but they hadn't anticipated a human system. Earth's tech was messy, illogical. It crashed. It looped. It contradicted itself. The perfect opposite of Vexery order. Jason grinned. "Let's see how you handle chaos." Back on the surface, the squad regrouped behind a collapsed wall, barely holding back the surge. One cadet's armor sparked uselessly. Another was unconscious. Then the machines paused. Every Vexery unit on the battlefield stopped mid-strike. Their eyes blinked red-blue-red in rapid sequence. They began to twitch, some in place, others spinning wildly. "What the?" Drarnak muttered. Jason's voice came through the comms. "Learning's a two-way street. They hijacked our tactics. I just hijacked their logic." Velthor, monitoring from orbit, broke radio silence. "Reeve, what have you done?" I fed them a recursive paradox, Jason said. A data command they can't resolve without contradicting their primary directives. They're freezing to prevent logical collapse. You mean? Jason's voice was calm. They're done. This front is neutralized. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, Drarnak, bloodied and panting, leaned against a scorched column and let out a low, begrudging laugh. Well, human, maybe you're not completely useless after all. Jason emerged from the tunnel, wiping grease from his face. Jason Reeve had 5 Vexery units staring at him, unblinking. They twitched like marionettes with tangled strings. Red, blue, frozen mid-subroutine. Each machine, a master of pattern prediction and efficiency, was now caught in an impossible loop of human code. They couldn't parse the contradiction he'd uploaded. He exhaled slowly. Minute 1 done. From his crouch beside the uplink tower, Jason called up the swarm map he'd stolen from the Vexery net. Each unit pulsed on a display. Exactly 2,141 active constructs in this sector, all temporarily inert. He had 6 minutes left before the paradox wore off. Jason adjusted his wrist pad and triggered the next phase, a flurry of false data bursts. He spoofed heat signatures and biosigns in every direction. As expected, some of the smaller drones jerked into motion, breaking formation. They were reacting, barely, trying to correct a threat that didn't exist. He grinned. You're slipping. Back on the comms, Drarnak's voice crackled. We're pinned in the debris fields. Vexery flank patterns reactivating. Jason frowned. Copy. Divert west. Avoid direct engagement. Human, we've got wounded. You're telling us to run. I'm telling you to live. That's still the objective, right? There was silence, then fine. Moving. Minute 2. Jason accessed the base's reactor diagnostics. It was primitive tech by Galactic standards, but the Vexery had ignored it. No threat. He rerouted emergency coolant through the internal sensor grid and turned the base's walls into a giant electromagnetic pulse cage. Then he overloaded the main node and detonated a microburst. The resulting shockwave sent ripples through every grounded machine. Outside, Vexery units collapsed mid-run, seizing violently. Minute 3. Jason wasn't finished. He rerouted every corrupted uplink into a single compressed file, a recursive paradox engine, a digital Mobius strip, the kind of messy, contradictory logic that would short a human brain and terrify a Vexery neural hive. He launched the file into their shared network. At first, nothing. Then, across his wrist pad, error pings lit up like fireworks. Vexery communications had gone dark. Minute 4. Back on the battlefield, the cadets were moving. Slower now, cautious, bloodied and shaken. Drarnak carried a wounded Trinari on his shoulder. His armor was cracked and sparking, but his eyes were scanning, calculating for the first time. Human, he grunted over the comms. Your signal's getting fuzzy. What are you doing down there? Jason's fingers flew across the pad, finishing what I started. Minute 5. He sent a command to every remaining base drone, construction bots, cleaning mechs, and long-dormant defense turrets. He stripped them of automated commands and uploaded his own. Protect the cadets. Attack anything else. A maintenance drone rolled past the cadets, opened a hatch, and launched a cutting laser at a twitching Vexery drone. The squad stared. Well, that's new, one muttered. Jason's voice came over comms, calm and unbothered. We call it improvisation. Minute 6. Jason opened the last firewall, one left untouched for a reason. It wasn't part of the Vexery network. It was Earth-made, buried deep under layers of Coalition software. A last resort dead man's switch created by human engineers. A Trojan horse, waiting for someone crazy enough to use it. He didn't hesitate. He activated it. In that moment, every Vexery unit in the sector received the same signal, a data fragment labeled with Earth encryption. It didn't carry commands or logic. It carried randomness. True, mathematical chaos. Data that couldn't be predicted, parsed, or reduced. The Vexery systems, designed to model and adapt, tried to consume it anyway. And they broke. Minute 7. From orbit, Instructor Velthor watched his displays go quiet, one by one, every red icon blinking out. He floated to the central console. Impossible, he whispered. Drarnak and the remaining cadets stood amid a field of dead metal. The battlefield had fallen silent. The swarm had not fled. They had simply stopped. Reeve, Drarnak said slowly over comms. What did you do? Jason climbed out of the access tunnel, bruised and covered in soot. I broke their brains, he said. Velthor's voice came through on all channels. Squad 11. Report. Status. Jason looked around at the stunned faces, the fractured ground, the frozen war machines. Mission complete, he said. Front neutralized. He glanced at his pad. Elapsed time, 7 minutes. The debriefing chamber aboard the Crucible's orbital platform was silent. 12 seats. 11 cadets. One empty chair. Its former occupant now listed as Kia during the swarm ambush. Jason sat at the far end of the table, elbows resting on the cold surface, his eyes fixed ahead. He didn't look at the others. Not because he feared their gaze, but because he didn't need it anymore. For the first time since he'd arrived, no one was laughing. Velthor materialized in the center of the chamber, coalescing from a cloud of neural dust into his familiar floating form. The glowing strands of his cerebral matrix pulsed in rhythm with the room's lights. His voice was low, resonant. You were sent to die. No one flinched. The outpost was a test, part desperation, part calculation. Coalition Command believed it would be overrun within minutes. The idea was to gauge the Vexery's new phase pattern under real combat conditions. He paused. A high-cost data retrieval. Drarnak growled. We weren't told that. You weren't supposed to be. Jason didn't react. He'd suspected something similar. Earth had a long history of being treated as disposable, too primitive to matter, too unpredictable to trust. Velthor turned to him. And yet, Cadet Reeve, you turned the trap into a weapon. Jason finally looked up. I didn't defeat them. I just gave them a problem they couldn't solve. You collapsed a front that's been active for 20 years, Velthor replied, voice edged with something Jason couldn't identify. And you did it with code. Not weapons. Not raw power. Something uniquely human. There was a pause. Then the Trinari cadet with the fractured crystal arm leaned forward. You didn't just hack them. You undermined their entire philosophy. The Vexery aren't just machines. They're logic given form. Jason nodded. That was the point. You fight them with strength, they adapt. You fight them with chaos, they freeze. Drarnak grunted. They were trying to understand us. And he fed them a virus made of not understanding. Someone laughed, short, humorless. Another cadet murmured, that's terrifying. Velthor turned his attention to the group. Effective immediately, Squad 11 is reclassified as Tactical Anomaly Response. Your next assignments will be less predictable. Jason sat back in his chair, trying to suppress the tension in his chest. He wasn't sure if this was a reward or punishment. Probably both. Velthor floated closer to him. Cadet Reeve, Earth has been designated a Tier 2 Tactical Innovation Node. Jason blinked. We're getting recognition. You're getting a visit from High Command, Velthor said. Enjoy it. Fame lasts until your next failure. He dematerialized. The room fell into uneasy quiet. Then Drarnak stood. He stomped toward Jason. The table creaked under the weight of his armor. Jason remained still, meeting the towering alien's gaze. Drarnak's mandibles clicked once. Then he extended a massive hand. I don't like you, he said. You make war feel like math. But you saved us. That matters. Jason shook the hand. I don't need you to like me. Just don't get in my way when I'm thinking. Drarnak grinned. Fair. The Trinari twins approached next. You think in contradictions, one said. It's infuriating. But fascinating, the other added. We'd like to study your methods. Jason smirked. Try to keep up. Later, Jason stood alone on the observation deck. The stars outside shimmered against the station's shield dome. A single shuttle drifted toward a waiting dock, flanked by defense drones. He heard the footsteps before the voice. You really ended it in 7 minutes? Jason turned. The Coalition Intelligence Liaison, an Alari woman with neural implants woven into her skull, stepped beside him. Only this battle, he said. The war's still going. But they'll adapt, she said. They always do. Jason nodded. That's what scares me. I only bought us time. Maybe days. Maybe months. So, what happens next? Jason stared at the stars for a long moment. They try to solve us again, he said. And we show them something new. She tilted her head. What? Another virus? Another paradox? No, Jason said softly. We show them what it means to be human. We change the rules. Again and again. Until they realize some problems don't have answers. She studied him for a long time. Is that your strategy? Jason shook his head. That's our nature.